recording how I go through and edit my photos. So I went ahead and I pulled out one photo today, and it's just from one of my senior sessions. Her name's Maria. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna import Maria's photo into Lightroom. So I go ahead and I select my file and I click and drag and I import into Lightroom by dropping my cursor on top of the Lightroom icon on my bottom dock. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna upload that into here. So first it opens up your upload page, and we're gonna import by making sure this little check mark on top of your, or to the top left of your photo is checked, and we're gonna click that import button in the bottom right of your screen. So once that header is clicked, we're gonna make sure there's nothing selected here in our presets at all. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to our develop page. So it opens it up in your library where you'll see all the files you've selected to import, but today we have just one. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna click the develop tab, and it's gonna open up with your presets and everything on one side and your history and your snapshots, as well as the basic editings on your right side. So first, let's get started. The exposure to me is looking pretty bright. So first we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna drop our exposure a little bit here. But our colors on her sweater are looking okay. So maybe we'll drop our highlights just to match it a little bit. Now, our shadows, just to add a little more depth, we're gonna bring down just a little bit. And our whites in the background to me are a little too poppin'. So we'll bring it maybe -19 or so. So far we have dropped our exposure -0.15. Our highlights we dropped down to a -48, our shadows to -25, and whites are -19. Typically I do end up over exposuring when I shoot, but that's perfectly fine for this cloudy day because there's not many highlights here. So I'm really liking bringing these blacks down. But I don't want to bring them back down too far because I do want to go back up and I want to mess with my contrast a little bit. So let's bring your blacks to maybe a -15. Let's try that. Oh, that looks perfect. So let's go back here. Let's bump our contrast up quite a bit. Maybe, let's see, let's try 21 or so. I'm really liking how tan she looks in this sweater. So let's go ahead. I am going to crop this down just a little bit to bring in her face. And no matter my image, I usually bring up the saturation 1 or 2, as well as the vibrance, maybe 1 or 2. We're going to do this one 3 today. And then I usually come down to my saturation. She is looking a little orange, so maybe we'll bring down the orange saturation just a tad. So when we go back to our before and after, we can see that her face is still the normal color. Now, after I go through and I fix my basic lighting, so I go ahead and I look at her face here, and then I'll go into my brush strokes, which is an option in your top right corner, and I'm going to actually soften her skin a little bit. Now, you can tell she has makeup on and her skin is pretty soft already, so we're going to go ahead and not do a very effective brush here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to brush all over her face, and we're not going to go directly over top her eyes. So I go ahead and I do her face, and then to match, I'm going to do her hands here. So she has no other skin exposed, but I am going to brush on her hands and her face. And remember, you can show your selected mask overlay on the bottom of your screen by checking that option, and it is very helpful to see what you have selected here. So now we look at our before and after by hitting the Y option on the bottom. Her face is just a little bit softer and smoother. Alright, so let's go back into our brushes, and we're going to do a new brush, and we're going to go in and do her eyes. So her eyes, I'm going to bring up the clarity to 8 and the sharpness to 3. We're going to go ahead and brush that over her eyes here. And we click done. And again, we can look at that before and after, and you can see her eyes just really pop that little bit more. Helps her look more lively in this picture. All right. So we take one more look over and make sure it looks all good, and that is my basic editing process.